Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2016 Spirit of Hope Award ceremony. Please stand for the arrival of the official party. The Honorable Robert O. Work, Deputy Secretary of Defense, and Mr. Michael L. Rhodes, Office of the Deputy Chief Management Officer, Director of Administration. Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors and the singing of our national anthem by Master Sergeant Kevin Benier of the United States Marine Corps Band.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing for the invocation by Lieutenant Colonel Eddie Kenley, Jr., Deputy of the Office of the Pentagon Chaplain.
Let us reverently bow our heads in prayer. Our gracious, eternal Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of living in the greatest country, serving in the greatest of military, enjoying the greatest of freedoms. And now, God, as we have assembled here to present the Spirit of Hope Award for excellence, dedication of duty and service to the men and women of all branches, we thank you, Lord, for their commitment and their service. Now, as we present this award, we ask and pray that they might receive it in humility and might continue to go forth and do great things for our country, is our prayer in your name. Amen.
Please be seated. Every year, the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, and the Office of the Secretary of Defense nominate one individual or organization whose patriotism and service to members of the United States Armed Forces reflects the patriotism and service of Mr. Bob Hope. The men and women we honor today contributed an extraordinary amount of time, talent, and resources to significantly enhance the quality of life of service members and their families serving around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Rhodes.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for being here today. To our distinguished guests, to everyone here, thank you for joining us, both here in the auditorium and to everywhere this will be broadcast on our Pentagon network. I want to particularly thank the Joint Service Color Guard for their flawless presentation of colors, the vocalist from the President's Own for the beautiful rendition of the national anthem, and Chaplain Kinley for his sincere invocation. To all of you, your participation here adds so much to our ceremony. And most of all, to our Spirit of Hope Award winners. Thank you for everything you've done. We certainly appreciate your presence here today, but more so, it's all your commitment to our men and women in uniform, to their families. So to those of you and those with you here today, thank you and welcome. Bob and Dolores Hope will forever hold a special place in the hearts of Americans, but especially the men and women who wear the uniform of this nation. For decades, he and his wife lifted spirits and brought smiles. They brought them to the faces of American service members serving all throughout the world. Generations of troops have stories about when they saw Bob Hope, whether it was in Fairbanks, Alaska in 1942 when he was up there on a USO show, in Berlin in '48, in Korea, in Vietnam, on the USS Ranger, or in the Persian Gulf War. They all have heartfelt stories. In fact, because of his selfless commitment over those decades and his ability to touch the soul and raise the morale and spirit of individual service members, the U.S. Congress passed a proclamation in 1997 that designated Bob Hope an honorary veteran. He stated at that time it was one of the greatest honors he ever received. To the men and women of this department, he's an American hero. He was always giving of himself, always there with a one-liner or a funny story, and always lifting the spirits of someone far from home. That's why this award today is so special to us, and it's so important to us, because Bob Hope was special and important to us. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't give a little perspective and acknowledge Mr. Michael Fagan and Don Wiegand. They're two gentlemen from Missouri, and they worked with the Hope family, and they originally envisioned an award to honor the legacy of Bob Hope and to honor continued service to our military members. In fact, Mr. Wiegand sculpted the bas-relief that adorns the award today. It was initially presented in the early 2000s, partnering with individual services, and then we collectively began this presentation here in the Pentagon a few years later. And now this award is formalized as a distinct Department of Defense honorary award designed by the Institute of Heraldry, but still continuing to use the bas-relief that was originally sculpted by Mr. Wiegand. So each year, as was mentioned, we present the Spirit of Hope Award to individuals and organizations that are nominated and selected by each of the services, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard, as well as one that is nominated and selected by the Office of the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Staff. Our honorees have made impacts large and small. They've had impact worldwide and local. All of them, though, reflect the patriotism that Bob and Dolores Hope displayed throughout their lives. Like the recipients before them, today's honorees are truly remarkable. They carry forward the legacy of Mr. Hope, and they continue to serve those who protect this nation and the freedoms we enjoy on a daily basis. So now we'll move on. And it's my privilege to introduce our presiding official for today. He's committed himself to serving this nation as an officer of Marines in institutions addressing defense policy, and for the past 8 years as the Undersecretary of the Navy and the Deputy Secretary of Defense. Truly a person committed to our men and women in uniform and their families. It's my honor to present to you our 32nd Deputy Secretary of Defense, the Honorable Bob Work.
Thank you, Mike, for that suitably short introduction. I like that. And for everything that you do every day for all of us who work here in the Pentagon. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here today representing Secretary Ash Carter, who is traveling. But we're here to recognize a very select group of Americans who have given their time and hearts supporting the magnificent men and women who serve their country with such skill and sacrifice in our armed forces and in the Department of Defense. Now today we present, as Mike said, each of them with a Spirit of Hope Award named after an American icon, Bob Hope, who is an international star in entertainment, literally everyone in the world knew who Bob Hope was. He literally spent most of his adult life supporting troops around the world. Mike has spoken eloquently about Bob Hope, so let me just say a few brief words about, as Mike adequately and rightly said, is a true American hero in our books. Beginning in May 1941 and continuing for nearly 50 years, Bob Hope brought his variety show to military camps and war zones across the globe to entertain the troops and provide them a brief escape from the trials of battle. Flying millions of miles, he headlined 57 separate USO tours from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and to installations around the world, most often over Christmas. But Hope always believed he gained far more from the performances for the USO than he gave to the troops that he visited. And he sure did love the troops. He said, "I hate war with all my guts," he told a crowd in 1971, "but I admire the guys with guts enough to fight them when they have to be fought." He was also fearless. War correspondent Quentin Reynolds wrote in 1943, one of the generals said Hope was a first-rate military target because he was considered worth a division. Presumably, the Nazis appreciated these hopes, since 3 times they bombed towns where Bob Hope was suspected to be. But if being a target ever bothered Mr. Hope, it never showed. He always showed up. His humor was universal, his comedic timing impeccable, his self-deprecating jokes a trademark style, and his generosity was literally boundless. As he said, "If you haven't got any charity in your heart, you have the worst kind of heart trouble." Well, none of the people that we honor today have any kind of heart trouble like that. In fact, each of these honorees epitomize the values of Bob Hope: duty, honor, courage, loyalty, commitment, integrity, and selfless dedication. And each has generously offered and contributed an extraordinary amount of their time, talent, and resources to enhance the quality of life to service members and their family members serving around the world. Now, I think most Americans realize just how good our military is. At least I hope so. But I'm not at all sure that they truly understand the sacrifice that those who serve have given serve in uniform and in the Department of Defense have given in the service of their country. The Department of Defense has the most important job in these United States. We defend our country. We defend its Constitution. We defend its citizens. We defend our interests and our allies and our partners and our friends around the globe, and our very way of life. And make no mistake, this is a full-time, difficult, and dangerous job. I like to tell audiences when I speak to them that the Cold War ended for the Department of Defense on May 12, 1989, a couple years before the Soviet Union imploded, because that was the day that President George Herbert Walker Bush stated that containment would no longer be the lens through which we judge or shape our military strategy and our Defense Department, our defense program. Now, it's been 27 years since that date, and during that time, the United States has been at war more than it's been at peace. There is no other period in our history that is remotely like this last 27 years, where our military has been called upon so much over an extended period of time. Moreover, the armed forces that have responded to the nation's call during this 27 years of strife, time and time again, they've all been volunteers, and increasingly they're married, having to juggle the demands of having a family and serving their nation, often in harm's way. Now, as a Marine artilleryman, husband, and father, I understand the burden this has placed upon the service have been placed upon the men and women in service, as well as their families. And I hope that all Americans begin to understand that. But anybody from any walk of life who takes time and effort to ease their burdens or lift their spirits is a true American hero in my book. Which brings me to a particularly distinct group of American heroes who, through their efforts, embodied the magnificent spirit of Bob Hope in their kind, generous, and heartfelt support to our troops and our civilians all over the world. Now, they are American country artist Kellie Pickler and her husband, American country songwriter Kyle Jacobs. I think most of you remember Kellie is a contestant on American Idol who went on to become a country star and television star. And I have to tell you, Kellie, that I still have the DVR recording of you and Derek Huff dancing, and it is quite remarkable. Now, you might not know her husband Kyle, as he's not immediately recognizable to many people in uniform, but he should be. He is an American country songwriter and is extraordinarily well known among songwriters. In fact, he co-wrote More Than a Memory with Garth Brooks. That was the first song ever to debut #1 on Billboard's country singles chart. First time ever. Together, Kellie and Kyle have channeled Bob Hope's USO spirit to more than 60 military bases and 2 aircraft carriers. They even raised money for USO by appearing on Family Feud. Retired Army Colonel Jennifer Pritzker. She's the founder of the Pritzker Military Museum and Research Library in Chicago, and she has made generous contributions to the development of future Army officers and other service members and veterans through the philanthropy of her foundation. Mark Tarter, who spent the past 7 years working as an advocate for seriously wounded explosive ordnance disposal Marines. Those are the Marines who work with IEDs, improvised explosive devices. It's an extraordinarily dangerous job. And they spend evenings, Mark has spent evenings, weekends, and holidays in hospitals, comforting these brave souls. And from one Marine to another, let me say, Semper Fi, Mark. Mr. Tarter couldn't be here today, so receiving the award on his behalf is Brian Woods. Retired Air Force Master Sergeant Timothy Bryant, who is commander of Veteran of Foreign Wars Post 3000, has led fundraising efforts that supported outreach to over 12,500 veterans and their families in California. And due to his efforts, 32 veterans and their families were saved from homelessness. Retired Coast Guard Commander Michael Smith, who has worked for years supporting the mission and the important roles of the Coast Guard men and women who stand at the forefront of our nation's security along our coasts and waterways and overseas. He has done a remarkable job in supporting Coast Guard families in western Michigan. And finally, Debbie Dimmick, who is accepting the award on behalf of Horses Helping Heroes Project. It's a nonprofit that brings together skilled horses and wonderfully dedicated group of volunteers to empower and improve the lives of military veterans dealing with the burden of mental, emotional, and physical wounds. In closing, let me quote from one of my heroes, personal heroes, Winston Churchill, who said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." Each of this year's recipients have selflessly given their hearts to make for others a richer, more enjoyable life. And in the process, they have secured for themselves an extraordinary life full of meaning, purpose, and one that is so much bigger than themselves and so much appreciated by all of us. So on behalf of Secretary Carter and myself, all of the women who have served in uniform, past and present, and the civilians who have served in the Department of Defense, and a grateful nation, Let me thank each and every one of them and commend them for everything they have done and continue to do to lift the spirits and burdens of those who sacrifice so much for our country. I would also like to recognize and commend Bob Hope's family and those who made this award possible, and to pass on the family's personal and sincere thanks. For the very first time that we've given this award, the family was unable to attend today's events. Something big had to have happened to keep them from here today. And something big is happening. Today in Cleveland, Ohio, they are opening a new exhibit called Bob Hope, an American Treasure. Cleveland was Bob's hometown. He grew up there when his family moved from England in 1907. And this is the only reason, and a most fitting one, that they are not here with us today. So, without further ado, we are going to recognize each of these American heroes with an award that they so richly deserve. Thank you very much.
We will now begin the recognition portion of today's ceremony by recognizing Ms. Kelly Pickler and Mr. Kyle Jacobs. Presenting the Spirit of Hope Award on behalf of the Joint Staff is Vice Admiral Frank F. Pandolf, Assistant to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
I must admit, I'm a little nervous here. This medallion weighs about 19 pounds. I'm going to attach it from the rear and hope this works out well. Oh, I want to get Kyle. Let's go ahead and I'll do Kyle now too.
We will now recognize Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Pritzker, United States Army retired. Presenting the Spirit of Hope Award on behalf of the United States Army is Major General Chris Hughes, Commanding General for the U.S. Army Cadet Command. We will now recognize Mr. Mark Tarter.
Again, Mark was unable to be with us today, so Brian List will set the medallion in his path.
We will now recognize the Horses Helping Heroes Project, represented by founder Ms. Debbie Demick. Presenting the Spirit of Hope Award on behalf of the United States Navy is Rear Admiral Jack P. Greer, Director, Unmanned Warfare Systems. We will now recognize Commander Michael Smith, United States Coast Guard, retired. Presenting the Spirit of Hope Award on behalf of the United States Coast Guard is Rear Admiral Jack Vogt, Director of the Governmental and Public Affairs for the Coast Guard. We will now recognize Mr. Timothy Bryant. Presenting the Spirit of Hope Award on behalf of the United States Air Force is Mr. Joseph McDade, Principal Deputy General Counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2016 Spirit of Hope Award honorees. The Spirit of Hope Award is an emblem of character, integrity, and statesmanship. These honorees that we recognize today join a special fraternity. They exemplify the ideals of Mr. Hope, and in doing so, they carry out his legacy, a legacy of service to our great nation.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Rhodes.
We can make this work. Folks, thank you all very much for being here again today. Again, a very, very special thanks to our honorees and to the friends and family who have joined them here today. It's with great appreciation and honor that we celebrate this year's recipients of the Spirit of Hope Award. And we thank them for their continued contributions to our servicemen and women and their families all across the world. So in celebration of the honorees and their accomplishments, I'd ask that you please join us in a reception outside in the hallway following this ceremony. Thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay at your seats for the departure of the official party. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nicely done. Thank you, sir.